Right now, very first story. The government of Ghana is set to pay Zoomlion Ghana Limited over 448 million Ghana cedis. This debt was accrued because of the failure of the former Youth and Sports Minister, Elvis Afriankra, to implement President John Mohammed's directive to terminate the Zoomlion contract with the Ghana Youth Employment and Entrepreneurial Development Agency, JIDA. The New Patriotic Party brought up the matter at a news conference on Wednesday, but Joy News' Manasseh Azaria, who broke the JIDA scandal in 2013, has a lot more on this and joins me in the studio with what he knows. Good evening to you, Manasseh.
Good evening, Israel.
All right. So can you tell me how the state has come to owe Zoomlion, nearly half a billion Ghana cedis?
Okay, this is the brief story. Zoomlion is or was one of the companies contracted by JIDA to undertake some of its modules, and they were doing this youth in sanitation module, those you find sweeping the streets. And they had this contract that said that at the end of the month, 500 Ghana cedis should be allocated to each person, and out of that, the person should be paid 100 Ghana cedis, and that Zoomlion should take 400 Ghana cedis as management fees. According to figures we are citing, Zoomlion is saying that it engaged 45,000 people, meaning each month they were paid a management fee of 18 million Ghana cedis. Now, when we did the investigation and these issues came up, government set up a committee. They went into it and raised value for money questions with the Zoomlion contract. So they directed that the contract be cancelled. Interestingly, that contract had even expired by the time the committee was making its recommendation. The contract expired in February 2013.
So probably there was no need to terminate it.
There was even no need to terminate it, so there was no contract. Yet the government officials then, and Elvis Afriankra was the Youth and Sports Minister, did not terminate the contract, and they were still paying Zoomlion. And they also held on and were offering service until at a point in time when the payment was stopped, and so the owner or CEO of Zoomlion actually petitioned the president, and then the cabinet meeting was held to that effect. A committee was set up to look into that, and I just want to read a little portion of what one cabinet committee's report, which is signed by Honorable Haruna Idrisu, Minister for Employment and Labour Relations, and is dated the 6th of May 2016. This is what it says: that the committee noted that based on a report submitted to the Ministerial Assessment Committee, His Excellency the President directed that the Ministry of Youth and Sports should write to terminate the sanitation contract with Zoomlion Limited. However, His Excellency the President's directive was not carried out to the letter, as a result of which Zoomlion Limited continued to render services to the state since 2013 to date. This situation has resulted in the accumulation of debts amounting to 448,150,762 Ghana cedis. So this is how we came to owe Zoomlion this much.
Okay. You've seen this cabinet report on the matter, and we've taken details of it. What has the former sports minister, youth and sports minister, had to say about this?
Well, when we called him, Elvis Afriankra, what he said was that he did not terminate this contract because he needed advice from the Attorney General. So he had written to the Attorney General's department, and by the time he was leaving the ministry in 2014, the advice hadn't come. And we said there was even no contract, so why did you have to even write asking for advice? And what he said was that there is a termination clause, and that clause said automatically the contract should be renewed. Fortunately, I have with me here the Zoomlion contract, and then Article 3 of that contract talks about the term. And this is what it says: this agreement is for a term of 2 years, and either party may, upon 3 months written notice to the other party before the expiration of the agreement, A, renew the agreement for a further term of 2 years, and B, terminate the agreement. So with this information, it is not true that there is a clause in the contract that says automatically the contract should be renewed.
Right, but I'm sure there'll be a lot more coming out of this report. But what does all of this mean for the sanitation module?
Well, Israel, what I can say is that all of this is not helping the beneficiaries. You know, JIDA, or the Youth Employment Agency, as we call it today, is meant to provide jobs for some people. And if you have someone working for a month and taking home 100 Ghana cedis, and a chunk of what they're supposed to earn is going to a private company, and there is no seriousness like the agency to have this redressed, I think it is affecting the model negatively.
Right, thank you very much, Manasseh Azure Awuni. And Manasseh Azure Awuni, he's an extensive work on this particular issue. In other news, former Attorney General Martin Amidu, who only Wednesday got the blessing of the Supreme Court to cross-examine businessman Alfred Boyome on how a 51 million cedi judgment debt paid him could be retrieved, has taken on another battle. This time it is to see the governing, this time it is to see the governing National Democratic Congress ousted from power, believing that that's the one sure way the state could have the 51 million cedis paid back. Mr. Amidu, who is set to grill the businessman at the Supreme Court next week, Thursday, in a bid to know how the money was spent and what or who it was spent on to aid the retrieval process, Thursday issued a statement which could do the ruling party significant damage with less than 3 weeks to the December polls. In the statement, he makes it clear that though he is a founding member of the governing party, he believes the NDC is only hoodwinking Ghanaians and it is not quite committed to retrieving the money from Mr. Woyome. John Yusuf Joseph Akable joins me in the studio with a copy of this statement. Good evening to you, Joseph.
Good evening, Israel.
Now, what are the main points being advanced by Mr. Martin Amidu in this state?
Essentially, he presents evidence and he concludes by saying that the surest way to ensure that the state retrieves the money from Mr. Woyome is a change in government. And in terms of evidence, the point he makes is to the effect that Mr. Woyome paid an amount of 4 million cedis to the Attorney General. In fact, the Attorney General announced that, and those documents were tendered into court when they tried to stop him from being allowed to examine Mr. Woyome. And he says that that document, he's questioning the check and he doesn't think it is accurate, and in the sense that he says the check which he tendered in, and it's available on his website as well, it says it's actually an Access Bank check, and it says pay Economic and Organized Crime Office or order the sum of 4 million Ghana cedis only. And it goes ahead to write Alfred Agbesi Woyema at the name portion and with a signature that we are expected to believe that is the signature of Mr. Woyema. And the point he's making is that the Economic and Organized Crime Office was not a party, neither is the Economic and Organized Crime Office the judgment debtor, as it were the person that Woyema owes that is supposed to pay back.
So why are you paying essentially
the money to the Economic and Organized Crime Office and not to the Attorney General or, as it were, to the Finance Ministry or the state? So he points out again that he believes that this document or this check was put together quickly in the haste to create the impression that don't allow Mr. Amidu to examine him because he has already made some payments. Again, another document he adds to it is the receipt that the Attorney General tendered into the court. And this is a receipt issued to indicate that indeed the Attorney General received 4 million cedis from Mr. Woyeme. And it says acknowledgement of receipt of part payment of judgment debt. And I, Dorothy, a free answer, do hereby acknowledge receipt of 4 million cedis only from Mr. Alfred Woyome as part payment for the judgment debt of 51 million cedis, 283,480.59 cedis there, and signed in the presence of Helen Ziwen. She is also with the Attorney General's Department, and the two signatures are over there. So the point Mr. Amidu is making is that he believes that the said amount wasn't in actual sense paid. He says it's a story just to sell out to electorate that indeed we are making efforts to retrieve the money to ensure that the party does not lose votes because of the whole issue surrounding the Woyome scandal. And
it's significant because this is coming just about 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks to the election, and clearly it could do quite a bit of damage. And here I must say, Mr. Amidu was no ordinary figure in the NDC. Apart from being a former AG, he was once the number 2 on the NDC presidential ticket, which along with the late President John Evans Atta Mills. Now, does Martin Amidu say anywhere, which party he believes will do the needful in retrieving the funds?
Well, he doesn't state it explicitly, though, but the point he makes in actual sense is that the only way he's very certain that the money can be retrieved, and in fact, if I can read that part, it says, defend the 1992 Constitution by voting for a new president on 7 December 2016 to get our money back. So in terms of who exactly he's stepping to get back the money, he doesn't mention, but all what he's calling for is a new president, and it's definitely someone apart from President John Dramani Mahama, the incumbent president.
What's been the reaction of the governing NDC to all of this?
I will be monitoring closely. We are to get a response from any of the communicators with regards to this particular one coming from Martin Amidu.
But we have tried.
Yes, we have
tried. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Joseph Akable. And meanwhile, the Deputy Attorney General has questioned the decision of the Supreme Court to allow citizen vigilante Mr. Martin Amidu to orally examine businessman Agbesi Woyome on how the 51 million cedis paid him by the state was spent. Speaking on Joy FM Super Morning Show on Thursday, Dr. Dominic Ayene argued that the grounds for granting Mr. Amidu's request was in error. He explains why.
It is true that the judge said that because we are not taking any action, Martin Amidu should be granted the right to do so. That was an error. It was an evidentiary and a factual and legal error. When we filed the application to orally examine him, it was served on him personally. He gave it to his lawyers, and his lawyers wrote to us. In fact, the lawyers called first, followed up with a letter that said that their client was willing and able to pay part of the debt, and therefore they were asking us to abate proceedings as far as the oral examination is concerned. And that is why we stopped. We decided to discontinue.
The letter that the lawyers wrote to you, we've cited the date on it. It's the 27th of October.
Yes.
But your letter that you wrote to the Supreme Court asking them to withdraw your application to orally examine him is dated the 26th, the day before the letter from the lawyers was written.
Yes.
Can you explain that?
I can explain. I told you that we had prior discussions with them before the letter came.
You said you had subsequent discussions. You just said it. I paid close attention.
We had prior discussions. They had called us with respect to the matter. And then subsequently we held a meeting with them in our office.
Okay. So why did their letter not refer to your discussions?
That is a matter of style. You can ask their lawyers to answer that question. It did not take place.
So you came to an agreement with them orally, but when they wrote to you, they didn't reference this agreement. And you're saying it's a matter of style?
It's a question of...
And in their letter, they make no reference. In fact, they do make reference to their most recent interaction with you, and it's in February.
You mean, are you referring to what we filed in the Supreme Court?
I'm referring to what they wrote to you when they declared their client's ability to pay.
I told you that the lawyers called us. Okay, we definitely interacted prior to the 27th. And take that from me. I don't lie. I'm a person of integrity. If you don't know me, I'm not going to lie on Joy FM. If that is the truth, I will accept it and apologize.
Now, President Mahama, at the evening encounter organized by the state broadcaster on Wednesday night, also challenged suggestions that government is not eager to retrieve the money from Mr. Woyome. He insists the Attorney General is making genuine efforts to retrieve the funds.
This is one case that has taken the Attorney General's time, and she has pursued this case relentlessly. Recently, she put in an application to do an oral examination of Woyome. But at the same time, discussions had been ongoing in respect of settlement. And so before that happened, a terms of settlement was granted. And so she went to the Supreme Court and continued the oral examination so that she could look at the terms of settlement and see if it was acceptable, or meet with his lawyers and agree on what the terms were, with the option to come back in the event that she was not satisfied with the terms. That is a practice in law. And then somebody says, hey, it's the president who has it to discontinue. We have people who are just willing to publish any allegations in the papers against the person of the president, and there are all kinds of false claims, allegations, and things. You know, sometimes you read and you get disheartened, but you were elected to do a job, and so I take heart. And I mean, despite all these, you know, claims and allegations and falsehoods, most of them downright falsehoods for purposes of political propaganda, you know, and the social media has become a very fertile ground.
Now, one other party that's been keenly following and remained committed to the cause for the retrieval of the Woyome judgment deed is pressure group Occupy Ghana. Leading member, legal practitioner Ace Ankuma, also agrees the agency department could show a bit more commitment to retrieving the fund. Reacting to the developments in the last few weeks on Joy FM Super Morning Show on Thursday, Mr. Ankuma questioned the Attorney General's reasons for abandoning an opportunity to interrogate businessman Alfred Woyome.
There are aspects of what he said which are spot on, which are right, but maybe it's the language he used. Nobody grants terms of settlement. You enter into terms of settlement.
All right.
Under certain circumstances, you may decide to file those terms of settlement as a judgment of the court, which may not really apply in this case. So I'm really at a loss to understand what it means by terms of settlement were granted.
Okay.
But the language seems to suggest that there were terms of settlement either before or after the discontinuance. It's a bit unclear, but I guess that it's only based on the briefing he had received. Well, but what is clear to us is that, and maybe even from what the president was saying, that at the time we're discontinuing, there were no terms of settlement with the Woyome.
Let's hear that part again. Before that happened, a terms of settlement was granted, and so she went to the Supreme Court and continued the oral examination so that she could look at the terms of settlement and see if it was acceptable, or meet with his lawyers and agree on what the terms were, with the option to come back in the event that she was not satisfied with the terms.
Okay, so I'm happy to be corrected. It sounds like at first he says that terms of settlement were basically being considered. And because of that consideration, the Attorney General went to court to seek a discontinuance of the oral examination so that she could come back and take a closer look at these terms and see whether or not they are reasonable.
You're putting me in a very difficult situation. I cannot explain it.
Something
doesn't add up.
Yeah, I really want to understand it here, but I'm also finding it a bit. I'm really hoping we can reach the Attorney General's office this morning. We really need some clarity on this.
You're watching Joy News Prime. Still to come in the bulletin. East Region Anti-Galamsey Operation turns blood with 2 feared dead. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a bit.